DarkOfAllTrades presents Professor Dark Explains Logical Fallacies. Fallacy of Relative Privation, also known as the appeal to worse problems. This fallacy occurs when one dismisses an argument or claim because another argument or claim is considered more important, typically due to being a worse or better situation than the original argument. In its logical form, it typically looks like this. Situation X is presented as a problem. Situation Y is presented as a bigger problem. Therefore, situation X is not really a problem or does not need to be addressed at that time. This fallacy is a type of red herring fallacy, as it is typically used to distract from dealing with the actual argument by pointing out a perceived, more important issue, ensuring that the person will not have to address the actual argument. Some examples. 1. You should eat your vegetables because there are kids starving in Africa who would love to eat them. 2. You may have passed your exams, but you didn't get the best score in the class, so you aren't really that smart. 3. I know I was speeding, but shouldn't you be out catching real criminals? 4. He may not have been a good president, but he isn't as bad as Hitler. An example from apologetics. Often during discussions about religion, bringing up the harmful things that were done in the name of a god, or the subject of morality, religious proponents will sometimes deflect to atheist leaders, i.e. Mao Zedong or Joseph Stalin, to talk about how bad atheist countries are, and asserting that we should worry about atheists taking over and killing a bunch of people. This tactic rarely works in the long term, but in the short term has been distracting enough to shift the conversation away from the original criticism. Putting these kinds of arguments into a formal syllogism looks something like this. Premise 1. Bad things are done in the name of religion, or by prominent religious figures, or even a god. Premise 2. Stalin, an atheist, killed many people, which is worse than whatever the aforementioned religious figure did. Conclusion. Therefore, we need to address the problem with atheists rather than the religious figure. In this setup, it is pretty easy to see that premise 1 is dismissed without any addressing or even a dispute over the facts or details. Dealing with this fallacy. If you suspect your conversation partner is committing the fallacy of relative privation, ask them to address the issue brought up directly. Assert that even though whatever they brought up may be an issue, it isn't what is being discussed at that time. To placate, assure your interlocutor that you would be happy to address their new concern after they address the issue at hand. Keep the other person on topic and don't let them shift the subject even a little bit, or else you may find that they may have distracted you just enough to avoid the issue. How to avoid this fallacy. If you think you may be committing the fallacy of relative privation, repeat the question or point back to your interlocutor and ensure that you are responding to what is said directly. Repeat the question or point in the response to ensure your train of thought stays on track. You can also remove any potentially unnecessary comparisons from your argument. When this isn't a fallacy. Not all comparisons of this type are necessarily fallacies. In a situation where resources are limited, it may be the case where one may only be able to focus on one problem at a time, or that there are more urgent problems than the one brought up. For example, your garden may be a bit dry and need watering, but if your house is on fire, you may need to take care of that issue first. Any questions?